dia, good morning to everyone. First word, of course, to thank the Diáspora network for the invitation, and I know that João was very active on it, and a pleasure to be here at the Nova Business School. My oldest son is a student here at the university, so it's nice to be here today with you. Also because I was in my previous capacity, I was supporting the launching of this event, the EurAfrican Forum, a few years ago, and it's really nice to see how much it has gained momentum and to see a full room of people interested in EurAfrican affairs. I know that the president of the network said that we had to be very concrete and very action-oriented, but I think that at the outset I also want to say that I think that the fact that this event is taking place, that it is taking place for the sixth time in a row, is also very important as the message that we are sending in this very particular geopolitical context when the attention is so focused on the war of aggression against Ukraine. And you know that the European Union is fighting this existential, supporting this Ukraine, and because of this existential war for Europe in Ukraine. But of course that the attention is not being deviated from the south, and namely from Africa, and all these events where so many people are brought together to think about how to improve our relations are very, very important. Just one anecdote that I would like to say to tell you how much this event I think is forward-looking. When we were negotiating the EU-AU summit declaration, so that the sixth summit between the EU and the African Union, we tried to use these words that you use, the alliance between the EU and Africa. And leaders thought that we were still not there yet, because alliance was a word that had very strong significance. Also because it took us a bit to the security aspects of the relationship, and so it was thought that we still had to talk about a joint vision for a common future, but the alliance word was not put on the texts. It's good to see it here, to see that you are forward-looking and that you are, really helping us build this relationship that has so much potential, as so many of you have been saying here today. So I was asked to set a bit the scene on these opportunities and challenges of internationalization and EU-Africa cross-border trade, and I would make three sets of analysis, not what I remember you said it, not that I want to stop only on the analysis. I will also make a few suggestions for the way forward. So the first thing, just to set the scene and to tell you about the state of play, and Dr. Durão Barroso yesterday already mentioned this issue, which I think is important to come back to the numbers that he referred to that maybe were surprising for some of you, which is the fact that maybe not many of you know that the EU is in fact the first trading partner for Africa, and at a substantial difference from other global competitors. So has the EU and its member states represent 31% of African exports. Africans only export 19% of their global trade to China and 6% to the USA. The same thing happens in what refers to the foreign direct investment. In 2020, EU invested 160 billion euros in Africa, China 48 billion, so 160, 48, and the US 43. So so that you can see the difference, and that you can see that really there's a solid, there's a strong relationship between the two continents. And very, very important, Africa is not only exporting commodities to Europe as it used to do in the past, but there's more and more diversification of these exports. Just to name you an example, 31% of what South Africa exports to Europe are vehicles. So there are really not only oil and gas and raw materials, but we are going beyond that. Why is it that the trade flows are moving in both directions? Because the trade instruments were, of course, put into place, and because 90% of the African exports enter the European Union duty-free. So that, of course, makes it easier for African countries to export to Europe, and because the European Union has set with Africa trade agreements that are based on preferential schemes, as the generalized scheme of preferences with the least developed countries, or agreements that you may have heard of, like the everything but arms, meaning that everything can be exported duty-free except for arms, but because we have also set free trade agreements with countries in Northern Africa, and also because since the signature of the Cotonou Agreement with the African, Caribbean and Pacific states, we have been moving into a logic of closer partnership, and we have negotiated a number of economic partnership agreements with our African partners. What does this mean? This means that Europe gives preferential trade facilities to its partner countries, and gives those countries time to adapt to the market before imposing also any tariff barriers. And of course, the EU's policy, and I think that is the beauty about the European Union, is that you always have a comprehensive look into matters, and a comprehensive look into the relations with different partner countries, because the trade agreements are never, set only as an isolated agreement, but there is always complementarity of development cooperation aid. There's also humanitarian assistance. So we try to support our partner countries evolving into a different type of relationship. Also interesting, because we are always at the European Union level looking into new ways of engaging with partner countries. We have launched a new type of agreement, and that has been negotiated. The first agreement has been signed very, very recently. We are in the process of ratification, which is a Sustainable Investment Facilitation Agreement, and it was signed with Angola. So it's the first agreement of this kind, and the idea is to support to go further into the analysis of the difficulties of investing in Angola, and to support Angola into facilitating, improving its business climate, and all kinds of supports that come together with these efforts. We will see how it works with Angola, and then move into other countries, other partner countries. I think it's a good thing that Angola was, of course, chosen. Dr. Durão Barroso is not here, but it's obvious that the impetus that at the time that he was a president of the European Commission that he gave to the relations with Angola have been important to have Angola as also an example of and a special model of cooperation between the EU and African countries. We have a joint way forward, which is a special kind of relationship with Angola. We have the same also with Cabo Verde, a strategic partnership with Cabo Verde that we don't have with other African countries. So the Portuguese-speaking countries still benefit from the fact that we once had a president of the European Commission. Another very important factor that is promoting this the trade dynamics is, of course, the fact that Africa is constituting its own Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, and this is an ongoing effort. The commissioner in charge of trade issues in the African Union Commission is on his second term as African Commissioner responsible for these issues, and has given a huge impetus to this initiative. He's still struggling, still fighting. The signatures are moving ahead, but there are reservations from a number of African countries. I think that as Portuguese, we understand that the internal market for us was also a challenge. Going into an open economic area is, of course, constitutes a challenge for smaller economies, but we do see a lot of progress ongoing, and of course that the European Union, with all the experience that we have in setting up the internal market, it's giving all its support to the building up of this continental free trade area. And interesting to see, we have signed agreements with a number of members, and with also the Secretariat of the Continental Free Trade Area, and we see more and more a wish for support, and the discussions more and more open about this. The same thing has been happening also in what regards the economic partnership agreements. We had the EPAs. We signed EPAs with 32 either countries or also regions, because we have some APAs with either the Southern African region or the Eastern African region, but we see that there is more and more request by partner countries to enter negotiations, and we also see the scope of the agreements being enlarged, because we started a lot concentrating on trade in goods, and we are moving into trade in services. We are moving into analyzing issues relating to intellectual property rights, so modernizing as much as we can our trade relation. What are the challenges of these that we see ahead of us at this point? The first one being, of course, that the Africans themselves are able to move forward in the building up of the African continental free trade area, and of course that Africa, with all that we have discussed before in the different panels, continues to work on building this enabling environment to investments and for economic and trade growth. And we've spoken about energy, about digital, about skills. As you know, I heard many of you talking about it, and I was happy to see that the concept has already entered as we call it now, the narrative, that the global gateway investment package is indeed there to support. And on this, and I know that it's not always easy to understand the complexities of how the European Union works. I am a Portuguese diplomat now working for the European Union. It was very complex even for me to understand the procedures, the language, the terminology, but the European Union has an incredible network of delegations in Africa. Under my supervision, there are 49 delegations, and these are the open doors of the European Union. So when you go to a country and where you want to make investment and you want to understand if there is possibilities of support by the European Union, what are the areas in which the EU wants to support, you can knock at the doors at the EU delegations and talk to my colleagues there. That's part of their job, and that's what the administrations are meant for. It's exactly to support the business community, the civil society actors, to reinforce links. So that's one message that I would like to send you. It happens, I know that also my colleagues in the Portuguese embassies around Africa are always also with their door opens to Portuguese and African entrepreneurs, and so are we in the European Union. So this is, we have to overcome this challenge together. It's important that we work together on this, raising to the opportunities of the continent. Another issue, and that goes into the end of my intervention and to my concrete proposal also to answer to these to the request that the President has made to us, which is, I think that it's very clear for us that Europe is a demanding market, and so it's difficult to export to the European Union. Also because what was said often during these days, but just now in the last panel, there is more and more demand, and the European consumers, the European market wants more and more to work with sustainable products, and so that the level of demand of the entry into the European markets is increasing. And we are very conscious that when we impose a carbon border adjustment tax, this is difficult for African companies. When we are working on also on issues relating to the digital and to the energy transition, that constitutes a challenge. If I go back to the EU-Africa summit, for you to know that I was the chief negotiator on the side of the European Union, the last sentences that we could close at already with the heads of state in the room was the one relating to how we would relate with Africa in what referred to energy matters. So this is indeed a complex issue. Also, the regulation that is now to be set on deforestation will also constitute a difficulty for our African partners. They are there to stay, so it's a decision that was taken by the European Union, but this will be an extra challenge, and I think that it would be interesting that together with the private sector and in the context of the EurAfrican Forum, we also set a reflection on how best to address these new regulations, how best to address this level of demand to export to the European partners, and to help companies to overcome these new challenges. And that's all on my side. Thank you so much.